it happened. But like, that's why you post things like that. People see it, they give you their opinions, and you go from there.
Yeah, I think I put a lot into regarding
put a
your
chair under
comment.
me right there.
We're so critical of ourselves. We're so critical of ourselves, but I think that's one of the reasons why, like, in regards to like
I
the
don't
comment.
go again. I don't see anything that bad. Go again.
Okay. Was this a play?
Yes, that's the one.
Let me
So
see. Just play it.
was,
Hold on. Micro. Set. I think you went low I think you went too low, which hindered you from making the proper save had you stayed higher. But I think the movements in between that, if we watch, you're doing a drop set, micro movements, small shuffles, drop, micro movement, set. You're not setting too wide, set again. I think here you maybe thought he was going.
I cheated big time.
So that's exactly what happened. So up until then, everything was fine, but you cheated thinking he's going to your right-hand side, and he didn't. He went right at you, so you got caught going down. Now, that being said, you were still able to catch yourself, right? So you're still able to recover with your balance. A lot of people would have probably gone all the way, but you were still able to catch yourself with your balance. But up until you cheated, the movements were fine.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point. And by the way, Chris, I think this is Saskia. Chris said this to me the other day when we were trying to figure out what time that was going to work for everybody's schedules, because I know that you're traveling right now, and and Chris is in, I don't know which time zone still very confused on which time zone.
Alabama time zone.
Alabama. But Chris said to me, he's like, oh, I really wanted to have Saskia's insights. So we needed to find a time when we could have all three of us here, because this is the reason that Chris wanted you here, because this is stuff I can't. You're so brilliant at this. I don't even notice this stuff. You see.
I love the
real
movement.
time.
I obsess, because right now my current job, I work with a lot of like fine watches, so I obsess over like little details, and I love the micro analyzation of like movement. Like, I watch the England YouTube channel with their goalkeeper stuff.
So I think literally everything in this was fine until you cheated.
Yeah.
And you cheated, but I will go back to the fact that you didn't sell yourself totally. You were able to recover from cheating to the right and still kind of get your body back under you to make the final save. No, you made it hard on yourself. Because had you not cheated, you could have just stood up and catch this ball like this, right? You could have just hands up. It would have gone right into your chest. You would have stayed on your feet. So you made the second to last action hard for yourself. But up to that point, everything was fine.
Yeah. I want to throw this back up here, and I want to go to the next thing right here in regards to all that, because as you saw, Chris and I started having a back and forth here, and we started, chatting about the situation and going through it. And I think sometimes, Chris, when you're a young player on social media, you need to start having that back and forth. You can't just have one blanket and say, okay, that's okay. Say, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You need to like kind of discuss it and like, brainstorm together. And now you might come into seeing things a very different way if you have
because Mike might see this a different way. Omar could be on, or whoever, Franz Hook could be on and say, no, I think you should have done it this way. And this is what I mean about a gray area. Like, you could have three solid opinions from coaches and analysts, and you have to find the gray area. You have to find what's best for you and say, okay, well, I like what Saskia said about my micro movements, but yes, I cheated. And maybe Franz Hook says, maybe you do it this way. And Mike says, maybe you do it that way. And you tinker and you find what's best for you athletically and best for you as a goalkeeper. There are some yes or no's in goalkeeping, but it's always a gray area.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to bring this up, Chris, because I think one of the things that a lot of young goalkeepers don't understand, and it's the insecurity thing, and we've all been, younger goalkeepers, younger players, and maybe even older players, is we're so worried about looking good on social media that we tend to only post our best actions But if we're trying to use it as a vehicle to get better, shouldn't we post content that we think that we're going to learn from instead?
Oh yeah, I did like a end of the season recap that I posted like maybe a week or so ago, and I included a couple of goals against, because they were one of them. I couldn't see it, and by the time I saw it, I didn't I didn't load my leg well at all. I did my micro. I took some little micro steps and did not step wide at all. Did not get a good load on my jumping leg, and it was, I mean, probably it wasn't as bad as I make it out to be, but it was probably a couple inches short. And I went underhand when I probably should have gone overhand. Just little things like that. And I always include that stuff. And I think I even posted that actual goal independently, because you don't do everything perfectly.
But here's the difference between the union and regular social media, right? Regular social media, if you post that, if you Google that, if you post that somewhere on YouTube, whatever, the worry is you're gonna get destroyed, right? You're gonna have a bunch of random people, trolls, that are like, what were you doing? And they're not giving you any construct. On the union, basically what you're getting is constructive criticism. You post something, it's a community. So you post something, you say, guys, how could I have done better here? And you're going to have all of us coming at you and saying, hey, what about this? And why don't you make sure your balance is proper and you loaded properly on this leg? That's how you make up for it. Instead of just, you post it on YouTube, the feedback you get are just trolls that are just being nasty 90% of the time.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. So. And that's the tricky part about it for younger kids playing the game, because, you want to keep them mentally, you want to make sure they're staying, level, and you don't want to subjugate them.
It's not a place
unnecessary pressure.
Yeah. In our opinion, it's not a place to look for guidance.
Yeah. Oh God, no. Not at all.
Let's see this. So I love the angle you have in the back corner of the goal.
Well, to go back to the context of what you put right here.
I wish we had this angle in the NWSL.
It's so great. I love this angle.
Ryan, what's up, dude? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. You came in, you're watching intently. I love it, man. You were just you looked like you were getting ready to run a session for somebody, just breaking down the thoughts of this person.
I love it. I just love taking it all in and hearing other people speak and learning from one another, which is really cool about this community.
Indeed. Saskia should be joining us in a couple minutes, so we'll get started right around 3 o'clock. Quick question. Do you have headphones by any chance, AirPods or anything like that?
I don't.
Okay. No worries. Just, are you in a quiet space?
Yeah.
Okay.
How's the volume for you?
It's good. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's definitely, it's not bad in any way whatsoever.
Sweet.
All right. When Saskia gets in here, we will start. I will play a little bit more for people.
It would be so cool.
What I like about this here, and I think a lot of people, I really want you guys to go back, if you're listening to the audio, and watch the vodcast, despite me not understanding how Bluetooth works. Go back and watch the vodcast. Because some of the things, Chris, that you put here, like in this clip right here, like how would you all handle that situation? That's an open-ended question, and now that opens up dialogue from people. So not only are you going to be learning, but other people are going to be learning, because they're all going to be able to use it. So let's go to that clip right here. I think that's this one right here, right? And let's see what Saskia says, how she would handle this situation. Let's start from the top here. What's the scenario? All right, here we go.
So in this one, you get a ball snuck through. They're a nice little overlap. This guy in the center is making that run. He receives. You don't see is a very wide run just outside of this. And I don't know if he knew that run happened, but I don't have any defenders over there. Everybody collapsed on that overlap that happened in the center of the goal. Well, now towards the left side of the goal. So I didn't really want to attack him, because if I push that and he plays a good ball across, that guy's walking it into my net. But at least in this situation, if he zips that across my line, at least I can drop and attack whoever he's playing that ball to. Even if I can't play the ball in its path from his foot to the guy, I can at least come off of this position and attack that and maybe get a Bravo save and something like that. But he hit it, and he hit it. I mean, he was placing it, and I somehow got a hand on it and kept it in that area. I did not do that intentionally. I was just trying to get a hand on it, but it worked. But I just wanted to know I wanted people to know the context of why I didn't attack, because a lot of keepers in that situation I've seen attack the player, because he could have kept dribbling. He could have dribbled up a little further, but he decided to hit it after he took his first touch. And it's such a zoomed out view, I guess, but.
Well, actually, he takes such a tight touch, so it's caught under his foot. So he either is going to shoot the ball, or he has to take another long touch to get. If he takes that other long touch, see how tight he is under his body?
Oh, yeah.
So if he takes another long touch, then you can close, right?
Exactly.
Right, to give him space. But because he takes that first touch and it gets caught right underneath him, then there's no reason to come, because you know he's going to shoot, right? He can't do anything with the ball other than shoot. Plus, you have.
All right. I just texted Saskia to see. Guys, if you're tuning in right now, we're just going to start in a couple minutes. We're just waiting for Saskia Weber to join us. We got the one and only Dr. Ryan Carr. Man, not a lot of times you get doctor in the title when it comes to a goalkeeping podcast. So this is going to be pretty darn amazing. So we will just we'll get started in a couple minutes.
Right on.
Ryan, you have any more sessions today?
I am done after this.
Oh, all right. All
Yeah.
right. I just texted her. If I don't hear back from her in the next minute or so, we will just start, and we will just we'll just let her hop in when she can. She might be in one of those NWSL calls with all the coaching staffs. Who knows what craziness is going on with the Challenge Cup tonight? So. All right. All right, we'll just get started, and she will join us when she can. I don't want to keep you all day with this.
All good.
And is there anything you want to get off your chest before we start going with the podcast? Anything non-podcast related that you want? Oh, there she is right there.
No, I think I'm good. I'm an open book, so.
You're an open book. I love it. All right, let's get this going. Here we go. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, taking a little bit of a break from all the craziness going on in the NWSL, the one and only 99 World Cup winner, CBS Paramount Plus commentator, Saskia Weber, and joining us, an actual doctor on the podcast. Pretty darn amazing. From IMG Academy, we got Dr. Ryan Carr joining us. Dr. Carr, how are you? I feel like I'm going into something way more important than goalkeeping.
I'm doing great, and so pumped to be here and meeting both of you.
I mean, we're excited about it, man. So for people out there who kind of aren't familiar with kind of what you do at IMG, why don't you just kind of give everybody kind of a lay of the land there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a mental performance coach with IMG Academy, amongst various other entities. And I help athletes perform at their best when they need it most. And I've done that for a number of years through strength and conditioning at various colleges, my own training as a goalkeeper in college. But then I really wanted to further my knowledge, because working with thousands of athletes over a number of years, I realized they're all pretty fast. They all can jump. They all, goalkeepers specifically, a lot of them can fly. Most of them can make good decisions a lot of the time, but the hardest things to deal with is between the ears. And that goes for, soccer across every sport I've worked with, football, squash, water polo, it doesn't matter.
I mean, you're speaking to somebody right here who was a world-class athlete herself, and she knows a lot about the mental game with the fact that she was a psych major and spent a lot of time working on that end. I mean, Saskia, obviously, you've been involved at the highest of levels and obviously coaching at the collegiate level at UCLA. How much of it really was between the ears when it came down to when you're looking at recruits and when you're looking about putting lineups together and all that?
Well, so much of it. I mean, we've talked about that in the past, Mike, where like even with when I came into UCLA, some of my goalkeepers, they were such amazing goalkeepers with so much potential, but some of them wanted to quit because of what they had gone through in the previous years with previous coaches that had just like kind of destroyed them mentally. And to kind of have to break that down and rebuild it. I'm glad I was able to and had the support behind me to help do that. But it really is because, the difference between some goalkeepers and a lot is this much. It's just, you can't even count it. But, it comes down to the mental aspect of it. How do you respond to, letting up a goal? How do you respond to negative feedback? How do you help pump up your team? How are you as a leader? So.
Yeah. And by the way, Ryan, feel free to step in anytime. You don't need to wait for a question or anything like that. So it's just a panel discussion.
Absolutely.
But I do want to ask you, obviously you were a goalkeeper yourself, and I'd say you'd still consider yourself a goalkeeper among all the hats that you wear.
It's a badge of honor forever.
Does that give you a certain amount of, for lack of a better term, quote unquote, street cred when you're talking to these young goalkeepers?
Yeah, I mean, 100%, right? When you're in between the pipes, when you're on the pitch, when you've done the work in the environment, that's super important. I mean, you cannot stress that enough. You've got to be able to walk the walk, which is why I still play, honestly. Like, I play because I love the game, but I also want to put myself in the players that I coach. I want to put myself in their shoes as often as possible. And I think having that street cred of being able to step out there with a college team and like rock it and still play is super important. I'm going to do that until I physically cannot do it anymore. But I think equally as important is getting the formal credentials and the education that our athletes deserve, so we can coach them as best we can. Now, I chose to go a certain path, which took me to a master's degree and a doctorate degree. That's not for everybody, which is totally cool. But I think that you've got to go the proper routes to make sure that you're getting those credentials as well, which is why I'm super passionate about just giving back to the community.
Go ahead, Sis.
No, I agree. I think that one of the biggest strengths you have as a coach at any level, but is that identification. And especially as a goalkeeper, like to be able to stand there and try to explain things to Lauren and Hannah and everybody, but saying like them knowing, like, I've been through it. I've been there. I understand what's going through your head right now. I can see it in your demeanor and everything. I've done it. Like, let's get through it. This is how I got through it. It goes so far.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think, one of the things, Ryan, that you touched on, or should I call you Dr. Carr? I'm not sure
just
how I should be.
You can call me Ryan or you can call me Carr. That's what my teammates call me.
By the way, do you play in like I hope there's like a men's league that's just like, it's just medical professionals. So it's just all you guys out there.
No, I play in a league up here in Lake Tahoe, California, which is super fun and good to get out. And then I train with our college teams whenever I can.
That's unreal, man. You get to live in Lake Tahoe.
I knew that you were going to say that. You're going to be like, ooh.
I would love to live in Lake Tahoe.
Bunch of Cali folks out here. I'm just a little north of you guys. So.
What's amazing though is that like people are like, well, wait a second, he just said IMG. How does he do this? It's like it's the wonders of the interweb. Everybody
crazy.
He's able to do it virtually. I do want to ask you this though, because like the thing is that you brought up the whole thing about getting an education. You said, look, not everybody has to get a doctorate and everything. Do you feel that there's a lot of a lack of there's a lot of misinformation out there, and that a lot of young coaches don't treat this with the same respect that they do getting their federation license, for instance?
Yeah. You're saying sports psychology?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, there's a lot of charlatans out there, which is why I have absolutely zero tolerance for them, to be quite honest. Because if you're gonna work with young athletes, college athletes, professional athletes, like those kids, young ladies, young men, they're bringing everything they have to every session. So I think like we as coaches, we got to do the same. And it can't just be, reading a couple books or looking up some cool stuff on the internet that looks really sexy and everything. And it's like, no, there is science behind this field of sports psychology. It's not just throwing a motivational video and it's like, yeah, get hyped up and now go do this, run through a brick wall. No, like we're all human beings who have human experience, who have lives that are going on outside of the pitch. So we've got to understand our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and we've got to be aware of that. If we're not aware of those things, I call it the 3 A's, right? You got awareness of what the heck is going on between your ears. Then you've got to be able to accept what is going on between your ears, whether that's anxiety, frustration, anger, sadness, excitement. Then you've got to create an action plan. So be aware, then accept. And now what's your next best action plan? Great. You just let up a terrible goal. That sucks. Guess what? The game is going to start in 30 seconds. So you better figure yourself out. And that might happen through diaphragmatic breathing. It might happen through self-talk. It might happen through a performance routine that you do every time that you get a goal scored upon you. All of these things can reestablish a sense of control, reduce anxiety, and let us get back to what we're doing. So, I mean, my dad owns a boxing gym in Philadelphia, and he has a saying, it's called, what we teach is real. And if we're going to teach real stuff, then we've got to go through the real routes to get that information.
Man, you're just making me think right here. Suska, I remember I was talking to it was actually at a Federation course years ago that Tim Mulqueen was running, and we had Tim Howard come on to chat a little bit with us. And this is back when he was playing at Everton. And somebody had talked about warm-ups because they were so, hey, what Tim Howard, what is your warm up, before, and they wanted to write it down because they wanted to know about the activities that he was doing. And he literally just went, he's like, my warm up is for me personally to get myself into the mindset to be able to prepare for the game, to do the actions in the game. It is not about the activities that I'm doing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, even with me, like with my starter, I would sit down and say, what are we doing for your warm up? It's not, as a coach, it wasn't like, this is the warm up, this is how it goes, this is the repetitions, everything like that. It was like, hey, Lauren, like, what are the activities in succession that you need to do other than what you're doing mentally, like in the locker room, like, all the little quirks and everything we all have. But once you're out there, what is the flow that you need to get you there? And then we tailored the warm up to that. It wasn't, I'm Saskia, this is our cookie cutter warm up. Every goalie has to figure it out and conform to it. Now, that being said, because Lauren was the starter, it was curtailed to get Lauren ready. And then the other goalkeepers would have input as well. And then they would do some stuff for themselves on the side. And then they would be kind of molded into that. But it's not, you can't just say, oh, this is the warm up, that's what everybody should do. It doesn't work that way.
I love that. I love that you said that, because like involving our keepers into what they ultimately are going to be doing, like soccer's an autonomous sport. Like that's why I love it so much. You can't call timeout like in basketball. You can't like control every play. Go out and play, and we can do as much as we can from the sideline, but we've got to create autonomous athletes who are competent in what they're doing, and then have that social support that they like feel hyped up when they're doing what they're about to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love the fact that you just brought that up, Ryan, because like the thing is that this is something that Saskia is always very passionate about, and this is going to go into our topic today, which is going to be like the mindset of the GK. But you Saskia, you always bring up joystick coaching. And you say even at the collegiate level, how many young athletes are turning around and looking at you for guidance on what to do during the game because they've been taught, they've basically been programmed that way to look for the answers from somebody else.
Yeah, also because, and I was going to bring that with Ryan, is a lot of what's going on in between your head. Is it because it's you, or is it because you're feeling a responsibility to acknowledge that you've made a mistake? Right. So you see a lot of kids and they go through like they let up a bad goal, and they get in their head and it becomes very like pronounced that you let up a bad goal.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Like, are you doing that for me? I know you let up a bad goal. I see somebody, shank a ball and then they turn to me like, I know you shanked the ball. Focus, like it's okay. So what is going on in your mind? Like, if you can shut it off saying that you have to answer to me in the run of a game and just say, okay, I shanked the ball and now let's move on from it, then that takes away that sense of responsibility to identify that you've made a mistake. We all know you made the mistake.
Yeah, I agree. I think the more that players are looking over at the bench, that just tells me that the less secure they are, less confident they are. It's like, hey, get on with it. Next play.
One of our players was sitting on the bench next to me, our field players, and said, why does she keep looking at you? And I go, oh, I know she's looking at me, and I wouldn't look at her. And then at one point I'd be like, what? And I'm like, like, focus. Like, I know, like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need any justification. It's okay. Like, come on.
I think it comes down to like a primal thing. I have two young kids, and one of them is almost 3. And when he's about to do something that he's like, not really sure, and probably maybe edging towards like, this isn't the best idea, what do? They look at mom and dad and they're like, for that approval. It's like, you know what you're about to do. I'm not giving you anything. Like, you make that decision and then you can live with the consequences, and then we're going to figure it out as long as you're not going to.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like looking at me when you make a mistake, for me to say it's okay, know that it's okay, and move on from it. You don't need me at this point in your career to tell you it's okay.
Sure.
Do either one of you guys ever get this when you're working with younger goalkeepers? And it's something that I've been trying to work with them and trying to find the right way in my behaviors to address it, so that they don't become self-conscious about it, and it also rectifies the situation. A lot of foundational goalkeepers have trouble keeping sight of the ball because they're looking at the coach to see if they agree with their actions. And that's why they're losing the ball, not because they physically can't do it, but because they're looking at me.
But it also goes back to joystick coaching, which is what I said, like that I hate. They're not making the decisions for themselves, whether right or wrong. They're waiting for somebody to tell them what to do. Mm-hmm. So then the onus on their decision isn't on themselves. So like, let's say it's coming for a through ball, right? They don't go for the through ball. And then you hear the coach say, Mike, go, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you go. Well, we all know as goalkeepers, that means you're already a second or 2 seconds behind and you're just screwed, right? Mm-hmm. So when you have coaches that do that, or like field players that call keeper for you, that's the thing I hate the absolute most.
No time for
that. If I didn't call keeper, then play it out, right? Yeah. Don't call keeper for me, because now everybody. Right. Now, should I have called keeper? Maybe, but I didn't. And so if I didn't come for the ball, don't tell me to come. It's already too late. So I didn't come to the call for the ball. Now the next situation is, now what am I going to do? Yeah. I didn't come, so now I have to put myself in the right position. But so that's that joystick coaching that you're just sitting there going like, guys, it doesn't work that way.
Ryan, before we go into the topic, I'm just curious, just because obviously you have a pretty solid playing background, and obviously a really solid sports performance background as well too. For the people out there who aren't as familiar, definitely look at his LinkedIn. Makes mine look like nothing. Man, talk about impressive. But what made you decide to make this pivot into sports psychology?
I'm so glad you brought that up. So it all started with goalkeeping. Right. So I played, club in New Jersey, and then went to the University of Hartford. You did. Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone played in New Jersey.
All goalkeepers come from New Jersey.
That's right. I'm from way down south, Ocean City, New Jersey. Right. So it started there. It started with a fantastic, back in the day, high school program that was just like really strong. We won 2 state titles, and we had a culture there that was just like super strong, and it was super fun. I go to University of Hartford. I get a full scholarship. I'm a starting goalkeeper there for 4 years. My first year, I absolutely get my butt kicked, like just letting up mistake after mistake after mistake. Get a chance. I get benched. Another keeper comes in. He doesn't perform well. I get put back in, get it like the second chance you never get. So long story short, my senior year, we get a new coach, Dan Gaspar, world-renowned goalkeeper coach. Fantastic. So he comes in my senior year, and I'll never forget, we're coming back from a game at like UVM or University of New Hampshire or something. And I go up to the front of the bus. I'm like, Dan, coach, I'd love to play at the next level. He's like, all right, let's go. 2 months later, he makes some calls, gets me into the Major League Soccer Combine. So it's 2006. I'm playing at a mid-major at best school. We're not that good, but I have a lot of action. I'm in the best shape of my life. As a keeper, could I have made it? Yeah. I'm traveling from Philadelphia out to Los Angeles for the MLS Combine, and something changes. I start feeling different, like I've never felt before. My legs are heavy. My palms are sweaty. I can't really eat. I'm not sleeping well. I get there, and for 4 days, I play the worst soccer of my life. When I have busted my backside for the past 20 years to be at my best for this moment. I'm walking Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach. I just walk for like 10 hours. And I asked myself one question: why? Why, when I needed to be at my best, was I at my worst? And why could I not control it? And why could I not pick up the phone and call my family, my friends, because I was too embarrassed, right? And I didn't know the answer then. So I went on a journey, sport performance, strength conditioning, for a number of years at a lot of schools in the East Coast. And then I saw a major when I was working at Seton Hall University, sports psychology. I'm like, oh, here's my why, right? So I do my master's in that. And then I just wanted to give back because I never wanted another goalkeeper, or specifically any athlete, to experience the massive failure or embarrassment that I did on that long weekend. And like, that's my passion. That's my mission. That's why I'm here.
Well, I've been there. I'll never forget. We were getting ready to go to Portugal with the U.S. Women's National Team. I was still at Rutgers, but I was on the U.S. team, and the U.S. team came in and trained at Rutgers, and so we were training in the bubble because it was early spring.
Yep.
And we had to do fitness, and so we had to do cold shuttles, right? And I'm fit as all can be. I run these all the time, could pass them all the time. So we go in, and my entire Rutgers soccer team is there, the entire team, sitting on the sideline, watching us run fitness. My coach and everything. I couldn't get through 2 shuttles without feeling like my legs were in cement.
Yep.
I couldn't do damn thing.
Yep.
And I couldn't run. And the inner anxiety and everything was so overwhelming. And this is the one time I did fitness with Anson that he added extras on if you missed. I wanted to die because I knew I was fit. And Michelle Akers was like,
"You're fit.
We know you're fit, but that mental anxiety that I didn't even really necessarily identify until I got on that line, and literally up, back, next one, up, back. And somebody might as well have shot me in the legs.
Which is crazy. You're in the best shape of your life. It makes no sense, right? But that's the power of the mind, where it can drag us down like a huge anchor. But it's cool on the flip side how it can also do that much, for as much damage as it did for you on that day and me on that weekend. We can also flip it on its head, and it can help us that much, which is super cool.
Kate Markgraf, who's the GM of the U.S. national team 99er with me, had the same experience. And I got so in her head and overwhelmed. The first national team camp she ever came into, I was there for it, and we were running, and she basically couldn't get through it.
Yeah.
And it was such a traumatic, she'll tell you the story. It was such a traumatic experience for her that she refused to come back into camp for 2 years.
Yeah.
Now she's in the Hall of Fame, but she refused to come back because it was such a traumatic experience for her.
Yeah. And I think these are the conversations that we need to be having, because I guarantee 90% of the goalkeepers and the coaches who listen to this, we've all experienced it, but who talks about it?
Right.
This needs to be something that's normalized, so it doesn't get to that scale when it's our biggest moment. We got to be at our best, but we've received no psychological or mental skills training to be at our best when we need it most. So I mean, my passion is just to get all of this embedded into what we already do. It's not, hey, go speak to Ryan on the side over there, don't tell anybody. No, man, this is what we do. I'm coming out to the field. We're doing warm up. We're doing cool down. It's embedded. It's on the sidelines. It's in the back of the line. This is part of just what we do.
And I love, Ryan, that you brought up the fact of this has to be normalized. And I think we're doing a better job now as youth coaches as to normalizing this. But yes, there's still a lot of players out there that, especially young players, that have this insecurity that like, oh, I must be broken. There must be something wrong with me if I need to go to Ryan.
You don't need to be fixed. You're not broken.
No.
It's like, how could we ever expect somebody to, I don't know, do a squat, do a lunge, do a step up if they've never been taught? Like, that's not their fault. We as coaches need to embed some simple mental skills training into what we already do.
So let's get a little bit into this topic right here, which is the mindset of the GK. So I'm going to move on from here right here. So Ryan, so obviously this is your background right here for people who are not familiar. Is there anything specifically on here that you want to bring up before we move on from it?
No, we're good.
Okay. You're like, nah, you're like, I did all the hard work, and I'll just let it speak for itself. Okay. So talk a little bit about mental toughness and why this is something that's so passionate to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think I described it just when it came to my own personal experience, but time and time again, like I would see athletes of every domain, every sport, every age experience something that held them back. And normally it was between the ears. So watching that as a college strength and conditioning coach for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years before I went back to formally get educated in sports psych. Yeah, that was the main reason I kind of got into it.
Got it. I think Saskia, the thing that the mental toughness thing, and I like, when you were talking about learning how to do squats and everything. And sometimes I think the word toughness sometimes, Saskia, is miscommunicated. Because, like a player injures their ankle and it's like, you got to be tough. You got to stay out there or whatever. Or, mental toughness, you give up 3 goals. You got to be tough. You got to stay out there. You got to stick through it. What does that mental toughness really mean to you, Susk, as somebody who's been at that level?
Toughness.
I'm not putting you on the spot with your.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, it's just, it can mean so many things. It's just, it's being aware, honestly, of where you're at, of what you're going through, and how to get yourself through it. It's not ignoring what's going on by being tough, which is, I think, a wrong way to put it. It's actually being aware of and how to work through the tools that you're given by, a mental health coach and stuff to get through things. That's toughness to me. It's the identification of weaknesses and strengths and how to work through it.
I love that you brought up not ignoring, right? Because how many times do we as coaches talk to our goalkeepers and we're like, you're down, you let up a bad goal, or there's some crazy fans that are shouting at you. They know everything about you. And what do people say? Oh, I just ignore that.
Well, yes, he played there. Play at UConn if you want to hear some fans.
I got my backside crushed 6 or 8-0 at UConn. And they knew my girlfriend's name, my mom's name.
Yeah.
Everything about me.
Oh my God.
What is it about UConn?
Oh my God. No, UConn. They would move. You would move from one. They would move behind your goal. You go to the other side. The next half, they come behind your goal. They knew your name. They knew your parents' name. They knew your dog's name. They knew everything. Yeah, same with Cornell. It was brutal in the Northeast. Absolutely.
Dude, that was like before social media too.
Absolutely. How do they know this stuff?
Yeah, you had to do some really deep, solid work. You had to go into the library with the Dewey Decimal System to find all this information.
You had to make phone calls and stuff, finding this out. But they were, that's the first thing that came to my head because I knew you played up there. Yeah, UConn.
Ryan, I want to bring up the whole pretending thing because that's something I've never actually thought of before. That you have to be honest with yourself about what you're going through. And if you're putting on a facade, people are going to notice that and it's going to actually be negatively effective.
Yeah. I mean, authenticity, we've got to be ourselves. Like I always let's look at like peak performance state or like arousal level. All 3 of us might be going into goal in the same game. Circumstances are the same. Maybe it's a regular league game or a championship game. Doesn't matter. We all, on a scale of 1 to 10, may be different, where 10, I need to be super hyped up. 1, I need to be like super chill and mellow. And if we don't know what that number is for each one of us, awareness, you're in trouble. Like if you're trying to be a 10, when you need to chill out to get to your peak performance state, you need to be like a 3 or a 4, you're going to be over aroused and over anxious, right? So I think that's super important that we're aware of that number. And then you've got to back it in with the pre-performance routines to help you get there, or the self-talk to help you get there, or the imagery to help you get there, or fill in the blank with what works best for you in terms of mental skill.
I also think that coaches need to identify. We talk about this all the time, Mike, that everybody's different. And so you can't come in and you have this with young, especially young goalkeepers and stuff. They come in and they think, okay, she's the starter, he's the starter, I have to be like them. Yeah. I have to be, if they're super hyped, then I'm supposed to be super hyped, else I'm doing something wrong. That's them. That's their preparation. That's how they identify, how they're like mentally dialed in. It might not be you. Like you might be super quiet in a corner doing like your mental imagery and stuff like that. And they might be like listening to, I don't know, Dua Lipa in the corner and like partying their butts off. And that's how they get ready. I don't know. But, you know, it's very important for the coaches to identify to their players that everybody's different. It's not one size fits all.
And I think, you know, Brian, I think that's something also too that young coaches need to recognize. And it's a mistake I made when I was a younger coach. And I know we've talked about this, Saskia, on the air here too, but is that, oh, well, this is my mindset. So this person, why isn't this person doing this the way I would do it? Why aren't they all excited and hyped up? Why aren't they dancing right now? Why aren't they listening to hardcore music? Like everyone's got a different routine. And like, Ryan, how do we help find out what the arousal level that is more optimal for each goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think you've got to know your people. And I call it the space between. The space between when I would be traveling with soccer teams, basketball teams, whatever it was, as a sport performance coach, the space between is when you're walking from the locker room out to the pitch. That is crucial time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
When you're walking from the pitch back to the locker room, when you're in the airport, when you're on the bus, when you're in the hotel lobby waiting because the bus is late, that is mental performance coaches or sports psychologists. That is our dream time, because it's not the hour-long sit down that you make the biggest difference. It's that 5, 7, 10 minutes here, there, having a meal. That you've got to get to know your people. And if you don't do that and you're just like, nope, everybody's got to be like this, it's not going to work.
Now I want to listen to The Space Between by Dave Matthews.
You're the second person that told me that when I used that.
I love that song.
So good.
I love that song.
Jersey, what?
Guys, if you want to check out Saskia Weber's new Dave Matthews podcast, it's available on Spotify.
Now I'm like totally like going to put that on when we get off of this. Go ahead.
So let's talk about these key dimensions. A lot going on right here, Ryan. I'm not gonna lie, a lot going on here.
So this is my passion, because I spent 3.5 years working on this for my dissertation. So backstory, I did a 13-week interventional study with a soccer team to measure, can we build mental toughness? And these dimensions are based off of the Australian-based researcher, Dr. Daniel Gucciardi. He's like the lead researcher when it came to mental toughness. So I adopted his model, full transparency and credits to him. But it's important that we know what mental toughness is. First, it's a psychological state. That means that I can be mentally tough in between the goal at a variety of levels on different days. I could be mentally weak when I have to go up and do public speaking in front of my class the next morning at 8 a.m. and everything in between. So the cool thing about state is mom and dad didn't just give us mental toughness. It's something we can train, which as a coach, you're like, bingo, let's go. All right. So that being out of the way, now the 8 key dimensions are this. I'll roll through them briefly. Attentional regulation, focusing on what you need to when you need it most. Are you focused on those UConn fans behind you screaming about your mom and your significant other? Or are you focused on organizing your left back and, making sure you're in the right position, et cetera? Buoyancy, that's handling all your stuff off the field. Did you take care of that math test? Did you take care of that relationship with your significant other? Because that's going to impact you on the field if not. I love the idea of like when you cross the line, I steal this from Coach Dan Gaspar, we'd step up to the line before practice. Whatever crap we had going on, you leave it on this side of the line. Because when you step on the field, you're locked in, laser focused. So that's buoyancy. Context knowledge, that's just exactly what people are doing, tuning in here and to your other podcasts, right? Like building your knowledge of the position of the game. Emotional regulation, pretty self-explanatory, never too high, never too low, but you're at the emotional levels you need to be at. And then, feel free to jump in and stop me at any point. But
no, I was just thinking, I was like, man, I should have had a notepad with me. Siski's always got a notepad with her, or she'll take screenshots.
Yeah.
Well, this is all
generalized self-efficacy. That's just confidence, like your belief in yourself. Optimistic style. We all know, we've all been in those locker rooms and you got like the 3 people over here who are the anchors dragging the whole team down. Then you got these 3 people over here who are super hyped, optimistic. Like you've got to have some level of like not being Chicken Little. The sky is not falling on us every second of the day. Okay? If you're like that, well, we got to do some deeper work. Overcoming yeah, go.
No, Ryan, I was just going to say that because that is also another thing, is the context is something that sometimes is so lost, especially with young goalkeepers. And it's something that I'm a victim of, not just as a goalkeeper, but in life in general. So the stakes are always either so high or so low, but I can't find the in-between of those. So I'm either way too excited about something, as in like, oh my, this is life or death, or it's not that important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you know what? I think one of the best things for that is having people in your life who aren't in the sport that can offer great perspective, like awesome mentors, grandparents, like aunts, uncles, parental figure, whoever, but like people who can be like, you're so deep in it, you can't see the forest through the trees. Like you're looking at the bark on the trees, like pull yourself back. So yeah, I think that's important. Go on.
No, I was just going to say attention regulation. This is just so fascinating to me, man. This is really cool. And I know you said you're not going to take all the credit for it. And there's the other doctor as well too, that did this, but I never thought about attention regulation. And I never thought about, that if we're so hyper-focused, eventually we're going to be, I'm guessing, just so exhausted that we're going to shut down because we're not going to be able to take in any more stimuli.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. And look, this is something before my own games. Like I pull out this chart, I have a picture on my phone, favorited. The day of a game, like morning of, I pull it out. I'm like, all right. And I literally ask myself these questions. All right, Ryan, today, how are you going to practice buoyancy? Well, you know what? I'm going to get my bag together this morning with all my stuff because I know late in the afternoon when I'm going to like get my family organized, stuff hits the fan. I got all my stuff prepared. So when it does, like, I'm cool. It's all right. No big deal. I'm not like running around like crazy. How am I going to use context knowledge? Oh, I remember this one podcast I was doing or this one drill I was doing with a coach and they mentioned this, and this. Like, I'm going to keep that in mind in my warm up. Like it's that simple. You just got to make it come to life. So many of our athletes will regurgitate answers we want to hear. Like, I'm going to give my all today. What does that look like? Like, make that come to life for me. Literally, what does giving it your all look like?
I love what you just said right there. And Suska, I know you've been in this position before, but I have so many young goalkeepers that I work with, and they try to give me back like the answers I want to hear, as opposed to really buying into something or saying it in their own words. And it's something that's a big pet peeve of mine. Yeah. Just because I just don't feel like they're really learning. And now I start feeling, okay, now this is becoming a therapy session for me, Ryan. It's like, I start feeling, I was like, what did I do wrong here? All right, let's move on from this wheel before I need to invoice Ryan. Let's all right. So this is the building blocks it looks like here.
Yeah. So this was essentially the study that we ran for, a whole soccer season. And we saw a statistically significant increase in mental toughness. More importantly, having open-ended conversations at the end of the season versus the beginning of the season, athletes are like, no, I got this. Like, I can deal with this. I can manage this pressure. I can handle this adversity. So they felt more mentally tough. So here's what we did. In the environment, we influenced that by adding pressure training. So we shortened the field. We added rewards. We added consequences. We added video analysis. We added leaderboards. We did everything and anything we could to pressurize the environment, make the stakes higher for our athletes. And I can't stress that enough. Like, we have to struggle as athletes. We've got to struggle as coaches to get better. Like, think about lifting weights. If you only lifted 5 pounds every day, you're going to get stronger. No, you better pick up 6. And when you can do 6, then you do 7. We've got to stress our athletes. Pause. We have to support our athletes with the mental skills to be able to manage that stress. I've seen a ton of coaches, especially in college, beat the living crap out of their athletes, wake them up at 5 a.m, run till they puke, put so much psychological pressure on them, yada, 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 right? I'm all in favor of those things if you're giving them the skills to manage that pressure. So that's what we had to do here. We taught them how to utilize diaphragmatic breathing to self-regulate when they're too high. And then we taught them motivational and instructional self-talk, again, to self-regulate and to be at their best when they need it most.
I always think of the beep test now. Especially with goalkeepers. I'll just tell the story because, at the beginning of the season, the goalkeepers come up, and they're just like, Coach, do we have to run the beep test? Because, it's for I go, yeah, you do. And I'm like, what's the problem? And they're like, well, I go, well, what? I go, it's just a gauge of where you are as an athlete. You're all athletes. I said, so, you should be at the athletic side of the bar. Yeah. And then I would say to him, I was just like, just run the test. Get out of your heads. And I'm not punishing you. We're just seeing I'm just seeing where you're at. Yeah. If you're asking me if there's a consequence, there isn't a consequence. Right now, you're beating yourself up more than me, making you run sprints because you didn't get a certain number again anyway. But I would just be like, stop. Sometimes parents would call, why does my goalkeeper have to run the beep test? You're like, stop, and I would
love that you do that.
Yeah, I would explain it to them just like, and I got it. It's like, oh, I remember back why did I have to run 120s? What the hell do I have to run 120s for as a goalkeeper, even on the national team? But I just did it. It was just, number one, to be a part of the team and be connected with the team because, it wasn't like you were off doing something else. And hey, look, we've taken the team through pressure training and they've all puked and stuff. So they understand what goalkeepers do. And I love that UCLA did that last season. I don't know if you've seen that video, Mike.
That's awesome.
But what? You had the field players do pressure training?
This spring, Morgan then did it. They took the national championship. They took them through goalkeeper drills and stuff. It was awesome. I loved it.
So good.
But my point being is that it's that conversation and it's getting out of your own way as a player and again, being the right coach instead of saying, no, you have to get this, you have to get that. This is what we expect of you. That's not the point to this whatsoever.
Saskia, I love that. I love what you said about that. Look, the sport performance and strength and conditioning field would say to me, oh, Ryan, there's absolutely no physiological reason why a goalkeeper should do the beep test or do 120s. Maybe a valid point, but guess what? What builds some team camaraderie?
Exactly.
What builds some leadership?
We
got to stuff together sometimes.
You don't think the players know that when they see the goalkeeper out there running a 120 and lagging behind or struggling on the 5th or 6th one, that they don't know that they don't know that they're a goalkeeper, but they still see them out there doing it. And what ends up happening with the right team and the right coaches in place is I guarantee you that the players that are done with their 120s will go out and run more 120s with that goalkeeper, more shuttles with that goalkeeper, run them through the beat test with the players that are lagging. And that is what you want. That's a team.
Absolutely.
This actually reminded me of years ago. I remember, I forgot which Division I men's college football team, American football team it was, where there was a kicker who was participating in all the same activities during the preseason as the skills positions. And they developed a certain level of respect.
Absolutely.
And for lack of a better term, they were considered real football players.
Yeah.
Well, they also
by
probably
their
worked
teammates.
harder for him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's look, I didn't gain anything knowing that you missed 3-1-20, so you came in late. But what I did gain is now I have a team, and now I have people that have your back, and there's a certain connection there that you build mentally that no amount of clicks on a clicker or anything can like do.
100%.
Yeah.
Ryan, I want to bring this up right here on this on the building blocks here, and when you bring up environment, because I think, this can be positively effective or negatively effective based on the environment that you've developed. And I think there's such a, for lack of a better term, there's a trend today to call everything a toxic environment without really understanding the why of why an environment is the way it is. Do you agree?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I've been a part of a lot of toxic environments. We've all seen those. Hopefully I wasn't contributing to those, but being the behind the scenes strength conditioning, mental performance coach, like you're in it. But I've also been a part of a lot of great environments, and the common themes in the great environments is, number one, it's very transparent. This is what we're doing, but it's also linked towards a common goal, and the standards are the same for everyone, yet the treatment, or more importantly, the coaching, is to the individual. So the standards are still up here. I'm not dropping my standard for my number 10, my number 1, my number 9. Like, the standards are here. How I get them to get to that standard, it's got to be different, because we're all unique individuals and humans. There's a time and a place for individuality and customization. The time and place is in the space between. There's conversations going out. If we're hitting 10-120s today or whatever, like, that's the standard. So we're going to do it. And if not, here's the standard of what we're going to do if we don't do it. So I think you build that positive, or that optimistic, or that optimal is probably the best word, environment through authenticity, transparency, having a common goal, high standards, and knowing how to get your individuals there.
I wanted to pull up this one right here, Saskia, in regards to environment pressure training that Ryan's got. And I think, you brought up something, Ryan, that I hadn't really even thought of before, in regards to, hey, we're not just doing the pressure training just, because, like, this is how you work hard, and, I want to get you to throw up and all that sort of stuff. Saskia, like, whenever you've been in that type of a situation, have you always, is that Dave Matthews?
Yeah, it was. Sorry.
Is it always one of those things where, like, the players are willing to buy in as long as the coach has a why on why they're doing something?
Well, yeah. I mean, of course. Look, players aren't stupid. There's some days that it's a competition day. There's some, like you said, there's some days that are based on reward. Some days that, like, all of that. And players, it's just conversation. It's just being transparent. It's like, this is what we expect of you, and so on and so forth. But they're like, players aren't stupid. They know they're doing pressure training. Sometimes I'll be blunt. I'm like, look, this is a day where I just want all, like, technique thrown to the wind, if you want to say. I'm not going to sit here and, like, tell you your balance on your left knee was out. I want to see the effort. I want to see the intensity. I want to see you flip that switch, and just go. Just let's have a day. Let's have a session. We're just going. And, whether that's keeper wars, or whether it's pressure training, or whether it's small-sided games, or some sort of shooting drills that have you moving around and just go, 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 go. It's not going to be pretty. So, but just communicate that, and they know.
Ryan, Saskia just brought up a great point right there, and I've seen this so many times, and I've been a culprit of this as well too, is that, when I'm putting sessions together, design sessions, I'm always thinking about the tactical and the technical and the physical, but not the emotional, not the mental aspect of it.
Yep.
How important is it that goalkeeper coaches, when they're putting their session designs together, they say, okay, what am I looking to get from them mentally from this activity?
Yeah, I think it's huge. And again, we've got to involve the goalkeepers in that
Mhm.
process. So for
Exactly.
example, I start every session with my keepers. What's your intention today? Like, what is your intention today? Here's the plan. We're working on whatever, shot stopping, aerial balls, whatever it might be. What is your intention? To be consistent. Okay, great. Break that down, make it come to life for me. What does consistency look like in shot stopping? Being set at the right time? Go on, tell me more. How are you going to be set at the right time? I'm going to read the shooter's body language. Cool. Awesome. All right. How are you going to get your feet in the right spot so that you can read early enough so that you're getting yourself set at the right time? So we'll go down that rabbit hole. And I don't care if that takes 5 minutes of the session away, but we're going to do that because if we don't have intention in what we're doing, we might as well just like not do the session.
Yeah.
So it just
Mike,
gets real clear.
Mike, I think also to your question, you can set up a session and you as a coach have to be able to identify that it's just there is something mentally off, right? So they're not clicking, they're not getting it. And how are you going to change this? What do you have to do right now? And we've all been in those sessions where, you know, you're not getting the mental focus and the intensity or out of your keeper or out of your keepers, and why? And so does that mean you have to back your session up a little bit? Maybe you have to back it up and say, you know what, we're going to just do simple right now. We're going to break some stuff down. I'm going to kind of deconstruct my session, and we're going to start maybe with some basic things to get you guys in a rhythm, because they're not at the point you want them to be in. And why? You know, and talk to your goalkeepers, because they're not always going to come out firing on all cylinders, ready to do any session you give them. There's, you know, like you said, Ryan, like what happened in school today? You know, like, you know, what happened with your significant other? What happened with your parents? Like, what happened with another player and stuff? And so you're not, a session's a session, but it doesn't mean it's going to work. So how are you going to fix it to work for you?
Love that.
That's such a great point, Saskia. You know, and talking about, you know, what's happening in your prior circumstance and what's going on in your life, Ryan, that affects your self-talk, right? Because the state that you're in is going to be based on the moment before, right?
Yeah, for sure. And look, I think we've got to do some work early on. This is what you can see, this little whiteboard here, but we got to do some work early on of setting what our intentional self-talk is going to be when we're at our best. So we just do like a brain dump of, all right, instructional self-talk. This goalkeeper wrote belly button centered, nose over toes, patience set, find your line, all those things, right? And then we trim out like 3 to 5 of those that are their go-tos. And then we do the same thing for motivational. So then, like to Saskia's point, if we are starting a session and we're trying to find that rhythm, and the rhythm, it's just not there, like something's sticky, something's going on. And I know, like, can kind of see they showed up a little late, they looked flustered, I knew they had math class or whatever. Then it's like, all right, let's pause for a second. Let's step off. All right, before we start this next rep, what do you want to use, instructional or motivational? And they're like, I just need to get out of my head. I'm going motivational. Okay, great. Brick wall. Say it 3 times. Now step in the net. You know, and we'll just do that reset, or it's instructional for the day.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we got to set these foundations and teach our athletes a little bit. We go classroom first early on in the season. This is what we did in the study. Classroom, meaning we taught all of these things over like 20, 30 minutes. Then we bring them into practice, but more even imagery. Hey, you visualize, make a mistake. What's your self-talk? Then we bring it into practice. They're at the back of the line. They just let up 3 in a row in a shooting drill. I grab them. Hey, what's going on? All right, what self-talk? And then we bring it into the scrimmages, games. It's progression, right?
I've actually literally pulled, let's say, take Lauren, for example, or somebody out and said, like, take a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Go. Just go. Out of a drill. Take a walk. Reset. Go get some water. No, coach, no. Take a walk. Shake it off. Like, whether it's 3, 4, 5 goals in a row. Now I see her like mentally starting to destruct, like self-destruct. Get out of here. Take a walk. Go get some water. I don't care. Shake it off. Come back. Don't come back right away. Come back. You know, because I actually have to coach, so I can't like leave and walk with her. Yeah. But she knows. Go. Take a walk. Reset. Yeah. You know, and you have to do that. You have to do it.
I absolutely, this is like one of those head exploding moments. Saskia loves it when I say that on the show. But like the whole instructional, motivational, like having this prior and having this information so that the goalkeeper understands this language and they understand this process so that they now know what they need in the moment, and you can just bring it up really quickly. Like, do you need instructional? Do you need motivational? I think that's just, I've never heard that before. That's amazing.
But what young goalkeepers and what goalkeepers will go to is when things are starting to crumble and fail, they'll just try harder, right? So they'll just go, if you're in a drill, they'll just say, well, if I just harder, work. And that's not the answer.
No.
Right? That's not the answer, because then they're just creating chaos in their mind and they're not slowing it down and actually seeing how to handle the situation or the play. They're just saying, if I throw myself and I go, and it just keeps crumbling at that point. You know, and you have to, as a coach, identify the fact like, hey, okay, stop.
Yeah.
You know, this is just going to shit. Like, basically.
I think this kind of really moves in really perfectly into the breathing thing, because this is something that I've been trying to research a lot more of lately, for not only my own anxiety, but you know, players that I'm working with. Ryan, why don't you kind of break down this? Because I think this is something that it sounds easy, but I don't think a lot of people know about this.
No, it's crazy. It's something we do thousands and thousands and thousands of time all day long, and yet we're still usually pretty bad at it. So here's a cool picture of our athletes here in Lake Tahoe, blacked out their faces so you can't see them. But our classroom session was.
Wait, how are you not motivated on the? Look at that view. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's not bad, right?
Gosh, wow.
So our classroom was the beach this day because we just did 5 or 6 days of 2-a-days, and they needed a recovery day. So we did like a little mile jog down to the beach. And then we worked on diaphragmatic breathing, and the research that we used was based off of Russo and colleagues, 2017. It was 4 to 7 seconds of a breath. So inhale, usually if we're trying to reduce some anxiety, we'll inhale about 2 seconds, maybe 3, and then exhale twice that amount. So it's 1, 2 in, and then exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. And we were trying to teach them to breathe more through their belly, or diaphragmatic breathing, which is commonly practiced in like yoga and things of that nature. But we're trying to use that because it reduces stress and anxiety rather than breathing through the chest. Like when you see kids who are like, all right, try and breathe through the belly more. So we're teaching them that in this really chill environment, right? And then we brought this onto the field when they're in the back of a passing drill, when it's not super intense. Their heart rates are at like moderate. It's still warm up. Okay, take 1 diaphragmatic breath before you go up and you're in line for the next passing drill. Boom. Then we bring it into like flying changes or a short-sided, really intense game, right? And then it was cool because by the end of the year, the reports we're getting back is like, yo, are you still using that diaphragmatic breathing? Oh, yeah, when the ball goes out of bounds and it's rolling down the track, man, I use that all the time. It makes me catch my breath, but I also calm down. I'm back in the moment. So that's how we use it. Goal kicks, stoppages of play, offensive corner kicks. Like, you got to find the right time that works best for them.
We did that with UCLA. It always used to be a funny thing because they used to get freshmen every year because we did it like we were at like NCAA tournament, wherever. And so, you know, everybody'd be laying and they practicing their breathing, and sure as shit, like a couple freshmen always fall asleep.
Yeah.
So the team would get up and they'd leave. We left the field and we'd go hide or get on the bus. And then eventually they'd come to and there's nobody there. It's just what it reminds me of.
That's awesome. I love it.
That's amazing. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this is one of the hardest things for me to do in my life is breathing. I've tried breathing through my diaphragm. It's probably why I go through throat lozenges so much when I probably shouldn't need to, because of the breathing thing. So, Ryan, do you have like a worksheet on how to do this?
Oh, yeah.
People maybe can find out there, because I think this would be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share it with you. It's pretty. Yeah. It's simpler than we think. It just takes a little bit of intention and practice. Like, start with 1 minute a day, 1 breath a day.
Nice. Well, Saskia, I know you need to start getting ready because I know you've got another thing heading here. We've talked about coaches, Ryan, in regards to this whole process and obviously youth athletes. The one thing we haven't touched on is how parents can be a positive effect in the mindset of the goalkeeper. And I'm not going to say all parents, but let's just say some parents can deconstruct all the work that somebody like yourself and the coaches has been putting in. So how can parents be on the right side of history? How about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, man. And I think it starts with, just like you would with a coach and a goalkeeper themselves, is like having very clear goals on what the goalkeeper is trying to achieve and what gets them their best. The best example of this is game day and what the relationship is on game day. For example, I had goalkeepers where it was like, hey, game day, I'm cool. My parents just drove. I used to have this myself. My parents would drive up from New Jersey to Hartford, Connecticut. So I felt obligated to hang out with them, which was great. We did it Friday night, Saturday morning. Once, if I had a 7:30 game, once 12 o'clock hit, my parents knew they're grabbing their bikes. They're going for a run. They're going to do something because they don't want to be around me. And we needed to work that out to be like, look, we're cool. Breakfast, lunch, then we're done. And I'll talk to you after the game because I need my own space. So I think having those conversations, what do you need on game day? When we're in the car going to the game, do you want to listen to hype music? Do you just want to be left alone? Like creating that relationship and and exactly what that's going to be is huge. So I think, just clear communication on that, as well as after the game. Like, don't talk in the car, do talk in the car. Just go take me for some ice cream. What is it?
Yeah.
So, anything you want to add to that?
No, it's true. Thank God we didn't have cell phones. Like, I mean, because I'm pretty sure Wilhelmina and Travis would have been blowing me up. But it's the same prep rhythm. It's the space between. And your parents have to understand what that space between means and what you do in it. And they have to respect it and realize that that's your prep as well. And so do the players and teammates and friends that you're with and everything like that. And if that means don't talk to me the day of the game, that's what it means. If it means you like to grab some breakfast in the morning, if you have a night game and kind of decompress and get your mind off it, then that's what it means. But you have to verbalize that rhythm and stick to it. And I like that people call it, I had so many little, what's the word for it? Like, you tie your shoelace to one way or something like that. Like you have
habit?
It's not habits though. It's like, I did so many things that, like, whether it's
idiosyncrasies.
No, people like knocking on wood, right? So
your performance routines.
Yeah. But they're routines, and it wasn't like, that I thought that if I didn't do something, we were going to lose the game. But it was just like, that was my space routine. That's how I got ready. How did I walk out?
It made you feel in control.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, if I don't touch the,
but that's part of the rhythm. But that's part of your rhythm. And that rhythm goes not just when you're on the field, it goes before. And I think that's what we're talking about. And your parents have to be a part of that as well, to anybody listening. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think it also a lot of times, just on that end right there, like it becomes like almost a self-fulfilling prophecy too. If you got a parent texting you like, hey, just remember to keep your feet set today, right before you get on the field.
Or did we'll be sitting here, or did you get extra tickets and stuff? It's like, my God.
Buoyancy.
Not my problem.
Yeah. And I think also, for any parents out there who are listening, and I think this also goes for any sort of coaches too, is that if you get defensive because you go, oh, I was just trying to help. You have to listen to what's the feedback that's being given back to you. So if you're trying to help, get your ego out of the way. Maybe there's other ways that this person would prefer for you to be of assistance. I think
superstitions.
Yeah.
That was the word. Superstitions is the word you're looking for. I just said it, Jessica. Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you, Jessica. Right. So people might think they're superstitions, but they're really not superstitions. They're just you getting a routine together to make sure you're dialed in. So yes, and Jessica, thank you. Superstitions. I love it.
I mean, and also with the superstitions thing too, is like, is it really happening? Does the world really making this happen?
No, but
No,
that's
but
my
I think
point.
it's self-fulfilling prophecy for me. Like if I don't jump and touch the crossbar in the middle, I'll start
But you're
thinking about
never
it during
gonna.
the game. It's like,
But
well,
you're never gonna turn around and say that's why I let up that goal or that's why that cross. You're just you have and there were times I thought that as well. Like, oh my gosh, like because I didn't like do this the way I usually do it. Am I not? You know. But what you're saying to yourself, am I not dialed in? Am I not prepared? And if your mind is going there during the game because you didn't jump and touch the crossbar, then guess what? You're not dialed in and you're not focused. So.
I always say, I agree. I always say you need to have an A, B, and a C routine. Your A routine is like everything's going well. It's what it should be. But then part of being mentally tough is being flexible. All right, guess what? The bus was late. Now we have 10 minutes less to warm up. Go to your B routine. Then you have your C routine when everything hit the fan. There's a lightning storm. You're all right. Now you can go out, get warmed up. You're going to take 5 shots, volleys each side, 2 crosses. Then I'm going. And guess what? Plan for that because it's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Most mentally tough people, they can manage that.
Yep.
Let's be honest, everybody. If you give up a couple goals in the first half, the water bottle has to move to the other side of the goal in the second half. It's the way it works.
It's not because you didn't touch the crossbar 4 times in the beginning of the game when you jump, but it's true. And you have to realize that that's just all preparation, it's all mental preparation.
Yeah. Well, everybody, I appreciate everybody taking the time right here. Ryan, I know you have a really busy schedule. You got a lot of clients that are not just goalkeepers, but other athletes as well too. Shout out to you. I know you just recently joined the union, so hope you're enjoying that whole experience, and hopefully we'll have you providing some either some content on there or maybe some sessions or something like that for our members. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, it is a free platform for youth athletes to engage with pro players and coaches away from social media, away from all the toxicity, in a constructive environment. You can get it on Google Play or Apple stores right now. We got some amazing stuff coming up on Union Premium if you want to check that out. And you can reach out to Ryan. I believe you're at Ryan on the Union. You're making it easy for everybody right there.
For now.
You're like,
I love it.
My feet under me.
You're like,
I'm pumped.
It's like Prince.
No, it's going to be amazing. I mean, the whole point is ask questions, you guys out there. Go ahead, because we want to be able to be accessible and give feedback, whether it's Dr. Ryan giving it back or or me with my superstitions giving it back, or just playing a Dave Matthews song.
There we go. Space between. Get it.
I will say this though, for anybody who's out there who's sending out DMs to coaches, make sure that it's relevant to what you want to talk about, not because you're trying to connect with them about something that they may not be able to talk to you about that right now. Let's just put it that way right there. I don't know what the restrictions are regulations wise with recruiting, but just be careful with all that. All right, that's a weird way to end. You can reach out to us at Goalkeeper Podcast for guest or topic suggestions on the Union app, guys. If you want to reach out to me directly, it's at Michael Magid on the Union app, at Saskia on the Union app, or at Saskia_Weber on all other social medias. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.